This is where the personalities and power players of Kansas come to talk about life and the lessons learned along the way. Our guest this week is radio star turned teacher turned politician / mayor of Kechi. I'm talking about John Speer. For 35 years, Speer was a popular disc jockey on Wichita radio with the on-air name John Boy. Known for his great storytelling and musical knowledge, Speer was one of the linchpins that helped make KFDI radio a ratings winner. Then in 2007, Speer signed off and switched careers. At age 54, he became a school teacher in the Valley Center District. Speer taught 6th grade for 3 years and then became the lead teacher of the district's alternative education program. Helping students with all sorts of learning challenges, Speer was lauded for his patience, his kindness, and positive approach. He retired from the school district in 2017 and then took on yet another challenge. He was elected mayor of the city of Kechi, a small suburb north of Wichita. In that role, he has overseen a number of community improvement projects, including the recent renovation of the popular and historic Kechi Playhouse. Coming up, I'll ask John Speer about the rewards and challenges of being a small-town mayor. We'll also talk about his glory days in radio and discover what advice John has for others who may be considering a career change later in life. This should be a lively and dynamic half hour as I go one-on-one with Mayor John Speer of Kechi. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Victor Hogstrom. It's a pleasure to welcome John Boy Speer to the program. John Boy, that's a nickname you had. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here, Victor. Thank you
Great to have
for
you.
having me come over.
How did you get that nickname?
You know, it goes back to the old thing of top of mind awareness. And if I ask you how many John Boys do you know in your life, can you tell me any other ones?
Not really.
John Boy Walton. Good night, John Boy. And so I think I'm the only other John Boy that...
in Wichita, that was in Wichita, on the radio.
That's right.
So you began life as a professional, kind of broadcasting.
Right.
How did you develop that interest?
You know, I go back, first of all, my uncle, John, was on the radio in Wichita back in the late 40s and early 50s. And one of my best friends says that he remembers back in 9th grade that we were in our social studies class, and he said he remembers me saying, I'm going to be on the radio when I grow up. And I built a radio, and when I was a kid, I used to practice. I had a coat hanger and a toilet paper roll, and that was my microphone, and I would practice in the bedroom.
Wow.
Being on the radio.
Did you look for people in the radio too?
That would be TV, Victor.
You got
Radio,
that right.
TV without pictures.
So do people still call you John Boy today?
They do. I go by, depending on where they know me from, I'm either Mayor or John Boy or Mr. Speer.
So how did this interesting life of yours begin? You worked for a few radio stations.
Right.
But you spent most of your time at KFDI.
Right. I
25 years?
24. From the time I
years.
was 24 years old till I was 48. So exactly half of my life was spent
At
there.
that time?
At that time. And I was fortunate that I was able to spend my entire broadcast career in my hometown.
Yes, because people do move around in broadcasting in order to really move up and make more money in most cases. but you stayed right here. Why was that?
Well, first of all, I love Wichita. I mean, my family goes back. All of my dad, myself, my kids, a lot of my grandkids were all born at Wesley Hospital. So we're lifelong Wichita area residents.
How did you get that big break in radio?
I was the guy that was willing to work the late night overnight shifts for not very much money back when I was young, and I worked hard and was able to advance through the ranks.
Now, in radio, there was what is called the golden days of radio.
Right.
How would you describe your days early for the 24 years you spent?
You know, for me, I mean, I considered that those were some golden days. I think about watching the Ken Burns country music special on KPTS recently, and watching so many of those artists, and going, those people have become my friends over the years. I mean, they started earlier, and whether it's, you know, Dolly Parton or Martina or Garth, a lot of those people are people that they got their chops started at a younger point in life.
And people were coming to you to play their music to try to get it on the radio.
That's right. That's right. Matter of fact, one of my favorite stories was Alan Jackson. I tell people that the first time an Alan Jackson song was ever played in the state of Kansas was in my minivan in the parking lot of there was an old steakhouse called Abe's Steakhouse up on 29th Street, and we were in the parking lot listening to Alan Jackson's songs. And if you know anything about Alan, he's a pretty quiet country music singer. I mean, he sings great. And I thought, you know, the songs are pretty good, but I said, I don't know that he's going to make it because he's just too quiet. And so I was wrong there. He went on to become quite a talented performer.
Now, you have some interesting family history in Kansas.
I do. My namesake, if you Google John Speer, Kansas, most likely you're going to see my great-great-grandfather first, and I'm usually second in there. But my great-great-grandfather started, he moved to Kansas back when Kansas, not too far after Kansas was a state. And if you know about Quantrill's Raiders, he was one of the early newspaper editors in Kansas, up in Lawrence. He was one of the people responsible for starting Kansas University. And he was also served in the Kansas House of Representatives and Senate back in those days. And he helped get Abraham Lincoln nominated for his second term. So that's a pretty good history.
So you have some politics in your background. You know, Ronald Reagan, who was from Illinois, worked in radio as a DJ.
Right.
Became a politician, governor of California, well, actor first,
right,
and then a politician later. Is that the path you're aiming for?
You know, my job that I have now, I have two of the most important jobs I have right now is being grandpa and being mayor of the city of Kechi. I don't have an aspiration to go to the Senate or House. I did this, one, because I like the fact that in Kechi we don't have politics. We just have a bunch of people who get together and solve problems as opposed to doing all the bickering. I couldn't tell you who's a Republican or who's a Democrat on our city council.
Well, you did not have aspirations to become mayor of Kechi either.
That's true.
But you became mayor of Kechi.
I did.
After working in broadcasting, first of all, you became a school teacher.
Right.
You retired from radio. Why did you retire from such a popular gig?
Well, I loved doing what I did, but it '54, I was able to retire, and I was having lunch with a good friend just down the street, and his wife came in, and she was the assistant superintendent of schools in Valley Center, and she said, "You'd be a great school teacher." Well, I had a degree from Wichita State, but I didn't have teaching credentials.
Okay.
But they hired me. They brought me in and put me under a master teacher, and I went back to college and got my teaching credentials at 54.
And then you taught in Valley Center.
I taught in Valley Center for 10 years.
Special education?
Well, no, it depends on how. I taught 6th and 7th graders. That's pretty special right there. But I love teaching middle school. And then my last 6 years, I went over and I taught at the Learning Center, the alternative school. And that's probably one of the most rewarding times of my life, was getting to spend time with students that, some that just needed a different way to learn, or they needed just somebody to believe in them until they started believing in themselves.
And then you became leader of that, lead teacher of that alternative school.
Right.
After which you retired from that.
Right.
And became mayor of Kechi.
That's right.
Tell us about this mayoral position you have now. Tell us, how did it all happen? Because you've told the story about how you became a teacher. Someone said you'll make a great teacher, and you believed them, and you went for it, right?
And then I had some people who thought, they said, "Hey, you'd be a great mayor." So,
right.
So I did that. I'm now starting my third year.
Before we continue the discussion about your mayoral role, I hear that you were a pretty young entrepreneur yourself.
I was. Matter of fact, I brought this along with me. This reminds me of the lessons that my parents taught me. This says John Speer, Wichita's youngest salesman. This was 1961. I was 9 years old. And my parents, Bill and Sally Speer, they taught not only me but my three sisters the strong work ethic, to work hard, and not only work hard but save too. And I got a picture of me with my banker, and I had a shoe shine business, and my dad would make me after I made my week's earnings, we had to go to the bank, and I had to put money in the bank. I think I had $26 in there back then. Mm-hmm. But that thing to be a salesman, which you understand that, selling your ideas, selling your position, your thoughts to somebody else, it's an important thing to do.
So with that background as a young salesman, you would have thought that you would have gotten into radio as a salesperson, making some real big bucks. Why did you become a DJ and not a salesman?
You know, I liked entertaining, persuading. I mean, as an on-air DJ, part of that is being an on-air salesperson. You're convincing people to go to whatever event you want or buy whatever the sponsor's product is. So that part of the job I liked. Plus, I really like the creative aspect of anything that I do. I mean, my brain just kind of works in a quirky way. Mm-hmm. My wife says I'm ready, fire, aim. I mean, I can see an idea and make it happen.
So you mentioned your wife, you have a family, and I understand that you have had 4 wives, but only been married twice. Explain that.
So the story there is, first of all, I was married to Shelley. Shelley was the wife of my 2 youngest kids, Katie and Bill. And then Patty and I married, we've been married for over 25 years. I got 3 additional kids in that deal. But then I had 2 radio wives. They were my wives that I had when I was doing the morning show on KEYN. And my wife used to say, "Is this your morning wife?" Which is my radio partners, which were Gayla and Becky, or again, my other two wives. So I don't know where you came up with that question at.
So your kids are all grown, and what do they do today?
I've got kids, every one of them are really independent. One of the things that we taught them was go out there and work. Every one of them is working. They all are doing things that they love to do. I've got a son that's a custodian. I've got one that runs a coffee shop in Portland. I've got one that owns her own business. I've got two of my daughters that are full-time moms. So
let's come back now to you being the mayor of Kechi.
Okay.
What are your aspirations? What are your goals? What's the vision for the city of Kechi?
Well, for Kechi, we're kind of a small artsy, craftsy community, and we like that. We think of Kechi as being a great place to live, very, very homey, very comfortable. We've got a little place called Gino's Barbecue that has some of the best barbecue around, and it's a fun place to eat, but we don't have any big traffic problems. Our biggest traffic problem is at our main intersection, where we get two people at the same intersection and one person's going, "You go." No, you go. You go. That's a traffic jam in Kechi.
Right.
So just a really nice community with good people, and most of our residents work in the Wichita area.
So I'd like for you to describe now your three careers in a vertical structure. Is it radio, teaching, mayor, or is it radio, teaching, mayor?
Well, it's really radio, teaching, mayor. I've loved all three of them equally, and they each have their benefits. I loved teaching. I think when I think of the biggest rewards is when you watch a student, when the light comes on and they say, "Thank you for teaching me this." And I keep in touch with my students. I get invitations to weddings and watching them grow. And I served as a big brother for many, many years. And I have two guys, Shane and Joe, that were big brother matches, that today they have grown up. They're fabulous fathers and husbands. And I'd like to think that maybe a little bit of that time that I spent with them rubbed off.
So now that you've placed the three careers on a horizontal plane, making them all equal, how rewarding was the work? And tell us about some of your greatest accomplishments from each one. I know you're still fairly new at being the mayor, but you've achieved already.
So if we think about my time in radio, I loved projects that involved the community. There was where the Advanced Learning Library is, we built the West Bank stage there. We did a house in a day with the Wichita Area Builders Association to raise funds for Ronald McDonald House. We built a house ready to be moved into in 7 hours, and I think it was 7 hours and 38 minutes.
Wow.
And that was 500 builders together. I think maybe one of the things that
Did the concrete dry?
That was the only thing. The basement was poured and cured, but everything else they did that one day. And I think that maybe one thing, and I'm not that good at any one talent, but I think I'm pretty good at recognizing people that have talents that collectively, if you get them together, you can accomplish some pretty big things.
So what is your advice to others who think they're too old to change direction and try something new in life?
Well, I think that one of the keys is that you've got to continue to learn. I mean, I try and learn something every day. And is it scary? I think every job that I had, I remember my first day of teaching, I thought these kids are going to realize I don't know what I'm doing. But after a while, I figured it out. My first meeting that I conducted as mayor, I was scared to death. I thought I don't know what Robert's rules are, how to do that, and you know, I've got a council that has plenty of experience, and they're going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing. But you practice, you get up there and you swing at it, and then it works out okay.
Okay, so we play a little game here, so let's do one with you today. It's
Okay.
a lightning round. You give me quick answers and you tell me why.
Okay.
All right? Your favorite song?
I Hope You Dance. It's a song that says, get out there and try things. Leanne Womack recorded that song.
Your favorite musical performer?
Hands down, Garth Brooks.
And why?
I think Garth, I've had many chances to spend time with him, and he's one of the most genuine people I've ever met. And the things, I mean, he gives 110% on stage, and he truly cares about his audience. And every time he goes out, he's ready to make things happen. And things that he's done behind the scenes that I know of tells me that just the integrity of him as a man, I just really admire.
Your favorite period of life?
Today.
Why?
I'm here with you, and I'm still above ground, and I'm loving what's going to happen later today, and tomorrow.
Okay.
Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully there's a tomorrow.
Your most rewarding experience?
I have a student named Shauna, who I will just tell you, she's involved at the Learning Center in Valley Center, and I don't have time to tell you her story, but to be involved with her and watch how her life is transformed from the day I met her is probably, with the exception of raising my children, that's probably one of the biggest highlights.
Your favorite time of day?
I like the morning. I like to get up, get a cup of coffee, look out the window, or if it's a nice day, sit down on the back porch and look at the field behind my house in Kechi and just think about what the day's going to bring.
What about your favorite, not your favorite, but the thing that confuses you most?
The thing that confuses me, the discourse at a federal level of our government. I just feel like I spend way too much time arguing and not getting things solved, and that's on both sides.
Your greatest source of inspiration?
My mom.
Why is that?
She was just such a fabulous lady. She lost her parents when she was young, and she just loved my sisters and I so much, and just was always there. I mean, I was her little boy, and I was her little boy when she died, and so.
With all that you've done, John, what is now your philosophy of life?
Go for it. Don't be afraid to try something. Don't be afraid to fail, because when failure is not, it's not failure, it's one more step towards getting it right and working with other people, listening to other people, trying to find a consensus.
What have you learned from the radio days, the teaching days, and now the political days?
I think I've learned that everybody has an opinion and that they're valuable opinions, and just because I look at something one way is not necessarily the right way or the only way, and that listen to other people.
And my final question is, what's still on your bucket list?
I want to travel more. I want to watch more of the projects in Kechi that we have on tap. We've got a big intersection project that is going to be happening in the next couple of years. That's a big deal. And watching my grandkids grow. That's it.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
And stay above the ground.
And I'm okay with that too. I know where I'm headed. So.
Thank you, John Speer.
Victor, thank you.
Mayor of Kechi, Kansas.
Thank you, Victor, for having me over.
It's been a joy to have you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking time to watch this edition of One on One. One-on-one at kpts.org is our address if you'd like to send us an email. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'll see you again soon.